Joining me now for a closer look at what's playing itself out in that market scene is Robert Towell from Sasfin Securities. Rob, always a pleasure. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, Rob, not the best start to the week. Red screens in Europe, here at home. Let's talk about all that must be going through the traders' minds this afternoon.
I think on the local front, we're still waiting for the government coalitions to come through. So it's tentative at the moment and volumes are low. That's the one thing that we're looking for on the local market. And then, commodities worldwide are lower as well. After that print of job data in the States on Friday, we see that the dollar's picked up again, and the commodities are a little bit lower across the board. So again, weakness in all of our commodity stocks locally, and that's putting pressure on the market in general. We've got the China is closed today as well, so a little bit more quiet on the front for Naspers and Process as well.
Another interesting one that we are expecting a Fed decision out this week based on that hotter than anticipated non-farm payroll. What are you thinking we'll see there? I think many pricing in just a hold at this point.
Well, just before that print on Friday, it looked like that US market was slowing down and you started to see a bit of a slowdown in that economy. But that print now has changed that view. So it'll be interesting to see what the Fed says. I don't think we'll get a cut right now, but I still think that, a cut in September is definitely available. I think that there are sectors of the market in the US which are slowing, and, you don't want to let that economy fall off a cliff. So, we have to manage it quite well. So I do think we'll still see a cut. And obviously the ECB, the European bourses cut last week. So, we have started to see the first cuts across the world, and I think that will continue for the year.
Speaking about Europe, we saw President Emmanuel Macron calling for an early election in France. I'm wondering if this at all really has a bearing on markets. We do see the CAC 40 lower just over 2%, but that could change in the day. It isn't too much of a dip.
Yeah, it's interesting. They've got the Olympics right now, and that snap election is actually going to be just as the Olympics start, which is quite interesting. I think the markets do like certainty, and another election, another snap election. We see the UK doing it as well, very quick election as well. So the markets like certainty. So I think that it just keeps the risk off, going forward in markets at the moment. The France is an important country for South Africa. We export a lot into the European Union and into France. So, we are looking at it quite closely. But I think in the short term, I don't think it'll affect markets too much, depending on, how aggressive or, the rhetoric around those elections. But it was quite a surprise how weak the European elections were for Germany and for France.
I want to get some company news now, Rob. Maybe starting off with Alex Forbes, a really buoyant period for them there. It looks like they're streamlining their business and then, of course, making very targeted acquisitions has been great for the business.
Sorry, I didn't actually hear what company you said.
Sorry, Alex Forbes.
Alex Forbes.
Yes.
Yes, no, I think, they've had... they're a very big asset manager, and they've been restructuring that business for a very long time. And finally, it does look like that the numbers are starting to come through quite nicely. If I take a look at one or two of these numbers for them, what was nice to see is that they've got their costs under management at the moment, and they're slowly starting to grow again. So it's a very big asset manager. Mainly on the pension side, etc. So interesting business, and it's not something that we've bought in the past, but it's something to look at on the local front if you want to take a view on South African equities and South African businesses. But it's not something that we put into our portfolios currently.
Let's talk Oceania now. We are seeing group revenue up there just over 12%. Profit from continuing operations up 74.2%. It is also quite a strong showing for them.
Yeah, so they've got a very good fish meal business in America, in the United States, and that business is doing really well. As you got this huge food inflation over the last 1 or 2 years, feed going back into fish meal has been very strong, and a very good demand for fish meal across the board. And also with the weaker rand, you're starting to see that conversion come back into their earnings as well. So a very solid set of numbers from them, mainly driven by their offshore business, but on the local front as well. A very good set of numbers as well. They've remanaging their pilchard business, and they got the increase of their catch as well for pilchard. So their pilchards catch went up by 65%. So that's really positive for the company going forward. They can bring in a lot more, process a lot more through their plants. So a good set of numbers for Oceana. It's relatively defensive. It's a good rand hedge. So a nice business to own in your portfolio.
And then let's talk Omnia now. Of course, they're, I think, reeling from what they've seen from the commodity cycle. Their revenues down 22%, and also HEPS also down 6%.
Yeah, surprising after those numbers, the share's up 8% currently. So the market obviously likes those set of numbers. The chemical side has been really weak across the board. You see it in Sasol's numbers, in Omnia's numbers as well. So the chemical side and chemical prices are quite low. But on the fertilizer side, there's high demand for fertilizer across the farm and industries. And we had a very good crop last year, and this year the moment is still looking like we've had enough rain, etc. So we'll see how winter goes throughout the section. And then on the explosive side and the mining side, South Africa is a little bit stagnant at the moment as we wait for this coalition government to be formed. But I think they're in a good position now. And you started to see that they've also curtailed their costs and got their management under control. So also a good industrial business, but we need some good growth in South Africa to come through for you to go into this business for the longer term.
Rob, I also want to get your thoughts on the rand here, currently at 18.74 to the dollar. It does look like it's a little bit more stronger than it was towards the end of last week. But considering that we are anticipating this big inflation week, interest rate week in the United States, could this be a more volatile week for our local currency?
Well, the rand is so difficult at the moment because if we get a good, strong coalition which is business friendly, we could see the rand easily below 18. And if we get something that's not quite what the markets are expect, we could easily back to 1940. So it's quite a difficult time to maneuver the rand at the moment. If you take into the United States as well, if they come out and they like really saying that there's no interest rates for July and definitely not in September, that would also put pressure on the rand as well. So you've got two big factors that can weaken the rand. One very strong one depending on our coalition. So I think it's at fair value at the moment, considering all the risk, at around 1870. But the more news we get out on the coalition government and how stable it's going to go going forward, that'll give us strength.
Keen to get your stock picking a bit, Rob, but first I'd like us to reflect on counters that have found favor with your industry peers.
Me personally, I'm a big fan of Tesla. I know it's been down. I know it's been under a lot of pressure. But if you just look at what's happening with regards to AI at the moment, the upside potential for Tesla is huge with robotics, with self-driving, etc. And everyone in the industry agrees that Tesla has the leading, self-driving and leading because physical world AI systems out there. The only question is it possible to do this stuff? If it is, Tesla's going to be worth a lot. If it's not, then unfortunately that company is got a long way more to fall. But I think that in terms of the risk reward benefit here, you've been looking at a risk reward profile. So it's a trade-off. Good company to look at.
Today, I'm going with We Buy Cars. The stock, has been doing wonderful numbers, up 25% since the IPO. And the sales and the results they had were very amazing. And I think that just like the Fushini Group, we may think that in this tough environment, a lot of stocks or companies will be suffering, but We Buy Cars showed that they are quite resilient.
All right, Rob, Tesla and We Buy Cars up for discussion this afternoon.
Well, starting with We Buy Cars, their numbers have been good going forward. We're a little bit concerned about the consumer in South Africa and whether they can keep buying second-hand cars. Obviously, you've seen very poor numbers on the new vehicle sales. And obviously people are stepping down into the second-hand market, but even there, second-hand vehicles are expensive. So they've had very good numbers in the short term since they've listed, and their growth potential. They want to do sell more and more vehicles across the board and open new facilities as well. So they've got one or two of these big warehouses where they sell vehicles out of We Buy Cars, and they got quite aggressive on the marketing side. Good business, well managed by the original owners of the business are still in there, and they've got equity in that business still. So, you're driven by a management that is, keen to get that business carrying on moving. So in that respect, we like it. But it's a GDP play, and we still think it's a little bit difficult to decide whether, the consumer in South Africa has got enough firepower to keep buying, whether they'll get that growth. So at the moment, we think it is a hold and not just a buy at the moment, but we're looking at it quite closely.
With that said,
On the Tesla side,
please go ahead.
Tesla, you know, some people say it's an AI company. Some people say it's a vehicle company. On the vehicle side, you know, they're under pressure on the electric vehicle side. The Chinese market are bringing in really good, high-quality vehicles at much lower prices, and I think they're under pressure. I think they're under pressure from even the BMWs, Audis, etc., which are starting to, you know, really produce, you know, high-end vehicles as well. So I think on the pure vehicle side, they're under pressure. You know, do they come out with autonomous driving, and do their charging facilities, you know, get taken up across the country? And I think that's where you'll get your growth from. At the moment, you know, Tesla is not something that I'll put into a brand new portfolio. If you own it, I think you can hold the share. But I'd like to see a little bit more from the AI development and the autonomous driving side. And the robo-taxis as well. You know, they're going on to the robo-taxi, and does that take off or not? So it's an interesting company. I think you've got it's more of an option play. You know, if they get it right, it's going to do exceptionally well. If not, it should, you know, bundle around these levels for the next few months.
And which accounts are you loving this afternoon, Rob?
I'm going to go with South African banks, and I'm going to go with First Rand. You know, it is a call on how the negotiations are going to go out on the government side. But, you know, if that does go well, the banks are well positioned to get growth coming out of South Africa. Any, you know, foreign direct investment that comes through, they're going to take up as well. You're getting about a 6 or 7%, depending on which bank you look at, dividend yield. Plus, you'll get growth of about 6 or 7%. So, you know, you're looking at a full year's yield for about 14%, and I think that's pretty good. So, you know, First Rand's my pick there, and South African banks at the moment.
Wonderful, Rob. An absolute pleasure having you with us this afternoon, and thank you for your time. That was your midday market update with Sasfin Securities, Robert Towell.